Welcome back to Faith and Fire, where we have real talk conversations about living a life of faith in today's world. Today, we get to dive into the world of being a preacher's kid. And I'm sure you've heard about them. Some call them goody two-shoes, and yet others think of them as the wild child, defying all the rules. Today, we get a glimpse into the secret life of being a preacher's kid. And is it all it's all cracked up to be? Or, what are some of the challenges? What does it mean to be a PK? So join me as I chat with two fellow PKs. Yes, I said fellow PKs, as we talk about their journey, what has it been like being a PK, and introduce you to the PK Council. So with me today, we have Ruby and Jamila. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Okay, so let's get to know you. Talk to me a little bit. What's your story? What's your PK story? How long have you been a PK? So on and so forth. Jamila, I'll start with you.
Well, I was born into the life, so I didn't choose the life chose me. My dad has been a pastor for 46 years. He just celebrated this year. So, I'm 31. So
yes,
he was 15 years in when I got here. So yeah, I was just born into the life, and it was a big deal for our church because we're the first pastoral family in 90 years at our church. So I'm the first daughter of 5 boys. So
5 boys.
Yeah. So I'm the princess of it all.
Nice. And so what church is your dad a part of? Like what faith?
Baptist.
Baptist church.
I grew up Baptist. Yes.
Okay. Miss Ruby.
Hello. So I have been a PK since I was about 13. So dad's completing about his 15-year range. Yeah, same thing, kind of born into it. So even prior to someone deciding I'm going to be a preacher, they've always been a preacher.
Yeah.
That's a good point, right?
Yeah. It's innate.
Yeah. And it's funny because my story is very much like yours, where I was not born into it, but my mom, she actually started the ministry around high school. I don't know if you know that.
Okay.
When I was in high school, not when she was in high school.
Okay. No, I
So I was living a normal life up until around high school when all of a sudden everything just changed.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So very different experience. So I'm excited to hear your experiences and how it's different to grow up with it versus all of a sudden, we went from, we don't go to church every Sunday and we talk about the churches that we visit after church to now it is everything's church.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. Everything was church for me, but, I didn't mind it, because it's just what I knew. They were waiting for me. I'm the youngest. I'm the only girl. So everyone waited for me. So I didn't have a choice. But I think it actually changed for me in high school. So when I was 15, I kind of stopped going as religiously. So, but, church is always in you,
Yes.
You're the church. So yeah, but I stopped going from the Saturday night, Sunday, both services, Wednesday night, midweek Bible study. What else? The choir practice. Right. I stopped all that probably around 15-ish.
So what changed for you?
Just a lot of, it was more personal, more family things. So I just kind of stepped back, and because people don't see the person, they see being a pastor and being a pastor's family, that dehumanizes people. People dehumanize you. So it's hey, I have a real life. I have emotions and stuff outside of, some of the stuff is impactful. So I just needed to step back, and I learned very early on to honor my own feelings. So I'm I don't want to go every Sunday. So I didn't. And, that's kind of where my journey shifted, but yeah, so the opposite of you.
I love that for you, though.
Yeah.
I love that you learned early on because I find myself just now learning that lesson.
No. Yeah, it was too much. And I'm very honest with myself. So it was a lot. It was just too much for me. So I wanted to step back and kind of find my own way because I had so many expectations on me. And I'm I don't want to do that. I don't want to wear pantyhose every Sunday. I want to wear jeans. I don't want to come here and have to just wear this color because is it like, that's silly. Like, I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to do it. So it was like the little things, and of course there was other things too. But like I say, people in the church have such high expectations and put you in a box. And then, like I say, dehumanize you. So it's like when you go through real things, they expect you to be this perfect person or this perfect family, or this perfect child. And I'm like, no, I had a rough day at school.
Yeah.
Like, maybe someone tried to fight me at school today and then I had to go to Wednesday night Bible study. Like, I'm not in the mood, Yes. So it's just a lot. So I just had to learn, like, church, although it was everything, it couldn't be for me, So, and I was okay with that.
Okay. So I absolutely love what you spoke about, because you talked about the weight of the expectations, and I almost like felt it on me as you said it, because it's so palpable.
Yeah.
And I felt that amazing. Like, have you felt that, Ruby, in your experience?
Extremely. So in my experience, it was kind of just growing up, we all go through emotions, we all go through life. And then you find out that, oh, maybe I'm a little anxious, or maybe I'm a little depressed. And then that is suppressed. And it's like, well, you're not allowed to, or you know what, let's just pray about it. You're good. Yeah. You're fine.
That's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Like, don't put those labels on yourself. You have Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
So I'm actually really happy that you said early on you found that out, because it didn't take me till getting mad and saying I'm completely done with all of this to finally set that boundary and be like, oh, it didn't have to be that way. But like, yeah, no, you guys are, hold on. I'm allowed to feel feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely felt the weight of just the whole community. Like, you are set. You have to be this one box, this one person. And when you're not, it's like, whoa, but your daddy's not doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah. We were even trained to say, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? When people ask you. And I'm not today. Yeah. Like, I remember the first time I was in an elevator at church and someone asked how I was. And I was like, I'm terrible. And they were just like, they just didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And then it was just this awkward silence the whole ride. I'm like, have a good day. Like, when I get off the elevator.
Sounds amazing.
But it was so funny. And I remember, like, it was just really just shocking, because they expected that. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. They were shocked. How did it feel for you?
So it felt liberating.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is what it is, to be honest. Like, out loud, because I would be like battling myself inside, like, I'm fine, thank you. But I wasn't, so, but I loved it. So I just realized, like, don't ask me how my day was, because I might hurt your feelings.
Right. So don't ask. You might hear the real truth.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. So
that's so interesting. And so we were talking a little bit about, I heard you say, like, what it makes it mean about your parents. And I feel like there's a lot of that in the space, because not only are you a PK and that means something about you, but you're also a PK and it means something about your parents. So everything has so much extra meaning added to it, right? Yeah. So you can't just stay out late one night. You're staying out late one night and you're a PK, and you're staying out late one night and it's about your parents and how they raised you, and they must be horrible people. Should they be in the ministry? I would have taught my daughter not to do that. Like, so much extraness in this space.
Oh, for sure.
I guess when you have all of that in this space, what does that do to your faith? How does that impact your faith journey and your own growing at that age?
I don't know, Ruby, you go first.
I almost want to say it's like, oh, well, it's like having a sensei and you like see this golden child and you're like, I want to be like them, but it really doesn't. You see all the flaws in it. Well, the world told me that you're supposed to be a socialist, you're supposed to do this, but Dad, you're watching TV on a Thursday night. And it's like, whoa, now I'm setting expectations on them. So it's just one of those, like, gosh, I don't know. It impacted my way of viewing everything in a very, like, cynical, like, negative way. Like, oh, no, faith is not this. Religion doesn't look like this. Or, oh, you don't have to practice it. And if I choose to practice it, well, why are you judging it? Or why are you looking at me? So I think it geared me up towards a very cynical way of looking at religion.
It's almost like you saw the juxtaposition. You saw behind the veil. You saw that the wizard was really just a guy with smoke and mirrors and for representing a very real God, right? A very real God. But you see the face that your parents are forced to put on, just like you were forced to put on something and show up a certain way, whether they felt like that all the time or not. No one's happy 100% of the time. Let me break that facade right now. So knowing that, right? And then seeing that juxtaposition and all, you probably also got to see what happened if one day they didn't show up the way people expected.
Oh, extremely. I mean, just in general, like you're a couple, you have a mom, you have a dad, and you have to go out to dinners after church and you have to hang out with everyone. Well, what if mom and dad woke up on the wrong side of bed and now they're bickering?
It's like saving face.
Yeah. So I see both sides, and it just very shaped me up to be like, wow, this is such a fake world.
Fake. Oh my gosh. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just so fake.
And it's so interesting because I think that PKs get a reputation sometimes for, rebelling and being the wild child. But is it really a rebellion, or are we just not at some point requiring ourselves to meet the expectations that others place upon us?
Yeah. Like I say, I learned to be honest with myself because I felt like I can control my feelings. Like I control how I feel or what I'm going to do about how someone else makes me feel. And if something doesn't make me feel well within or whatever, I have to honor that. And it was years and years of just muting it, like just, okay, I'm fine. Thank you. And I just wasn't. So I'm like looking at how it would affect me. Like, okay, if something's happening, maybe at church or something's going on at church, and then maybe that is messing up my school, and or it's something at school and messing up church, so it just all goes hand in hand. And I was just more worried about how I felt. And I was just like, I'm the only person that's really going to know and really going to advocate for me. So because the thing about being a PK, church, like we say, church is everything. Church came first. It was God, church, family, not God, family, church. So I was tired of being second. I'm like, I'm not going to be second or third or last to something that doesn't edify my spirit like it should.
Yeah.
And call me a rebel. I don't care. Like I will and I don't like labels. I'm just like, am I a rebel or am I a self-advocate? So, but I did have to explain to both of my parents, and it was something that I learned when I became a mother, that your child's choices are not a direct reflection of your parenting.
That part.
Yeah. And I had to tell them, like, because I chose to do X, Y, and Z, that wasn't anything that you could have stopped. Like, I chose that journey. Like, maybe, God has this plan for my life, but some of my choices change my fate and change my destiny. Like, I'll get to where I need to get as long as I'm rooted, but I might have a little detour.
Yes.
So, and I'm like, that's okay.
I love that.
Like, I had to go through what I had to go through, and I was okay with that, because I'm like contemplating, like, okay, red pill, blue pill, and I got to go through, weigh all the options. So I just had to let that. And so I think for them, that was showing them my grace. Like, I have grace for you. I have compassion. Like, you guys were learning too. Like, you guys had 5 boys and then me. Like, it's a different whole parenting game. Like, you got to deal with emotions and hormones and all like things that you didn't have to do with the boys. So I was different. And I just, and I told my dad all the time, like, that's why God only gave you one me. Because probably going to handle 2, but it's okay,
Yeah. That's funny. Oh, sorry. No, I definitely am 110% on that. I'm really glad that you found yourself because it shaped me different. I heard that the whole time. Out of the entire family, we're 6 kids. I was a wild child.
Oh, yeah, we
and
have
I was
6
like,
too.
Whoa, like wild? What do you mean wild?
Yeah.
I'm wild. And I never understood that, like, no, I'm just doing me. So definitely for the rest of my life, I carried this title of, oh, well, I'm just wild. Or like, oh, I'm the bad kid or that bad apple.
Yeah.
So in that same sense,
and I hate that. Like, and I wasn't considered that of my family. I was considered like, don't mess with Jamila. Like, I was definitely that one. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. My dad has even said to someone one time, like I remember in his preparatory office, someone came up to me and said something like kind of nasty to me. And my dad's face was like, oh, you met your match today. Like, he knew, like, he's like, oh, my daughter isn't the one, like, don't do it. And so it was just so funny. But, like I say, I don't like those labels.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know what we go through. Like, you see us on Sunday. You see us on the front row. You see us prim and proper. You see our pantyhose, our matching suits, our dresses, like, you don't see what goes on. I always used to say like, yeah, I'm the princess at church, but once I get in the car, like the story's over. My aunt called me the other day, called me Cinderella because, we were doing something and I was like all dressed up and I'm like, and I actually did the event I was attending. So, and I'm like, yeah, I got to go change, switch cars and come back and clean it up. And she was like, all right, the night's over, Cinderella. And I'm like, yeah, all my life. Yeah. Like all my life. This is like what you guys see. And then like the real, but I don't mind it. I like the real, I didn't mind it. I never mind it. It's just what shaped us,
Yeah. It sounds like a great trend for social media, like what you see in the real.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. Like what's that, Instagram versus reality?
Yes. Yeah. I would definitely put that meme of everyone matching. For some reason, we always color coordinated.
Yeah. Oh, same. Always.
The entire
always.
family.
Oh my gosh. We need to add, that should be in the part of the episode. We need to put an old family picture of all of us at church.
Horrible.
I mean, you send it. Funny. I will find a way to make it happen.
Like that would be so funny. Like from this to this. Just kidding, but,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, like I turned out okay. So.
Yeah. And I think that's the interesting part is nothing that you guys are sharing is any different than the same journey every young adult goes through.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's just that high expectation that changes how we see it. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. I heard someone say the other day, like, my regular friends think that I'm conservative and then my Christian friends think that I'm edgy. And
oh, that's so funny.
I feel like it's that, right? Yeah. It's when you do that social comparison, when you look at the expectations in one circle versus another in the church world, they're like, she's edgy. She thinks on her own. She's finding her own way. But then when you look at just the rest of the world, they're like, oh yeah, she's super conservative. Like she doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, I definitely, that word gives me, PTSD. I'm like, I definitely got called all of those words growing up. They're like, oh, you're a goody two shoes, you're a prude, you're like all of those things. And I mean, you look fast forward to now, I'm sitting here having whole conversations, just kind of questioning the foundation of all the traditions I grew up with. But it's so me. Like I'm a little edgy for my Christian friends and I'm a little conservative for literally everybody else.
And see, that's the thing about me. It's so, I don't know if it's unfortunate or whatever, but I'm just so consistent. Like I'm the same person, like party Jamila, friend Jamila, church Jamila. I'm like, listen, at any point in time, we can go 0 to 100. Just let me know. So it's just, that's why my dad's like, hey, she's not the one. I'm like, don't do it today, please. And so, I feel like everyone knows what to expect always.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you can go either way. You can go either way with that one.
Those shirts. What kind of day are we having today?
Yeah. Listen.
You decide.
Yeah, exactly. You decide. Like, it just all depends on you. So, yeah.
So as you look at growing up under your parents' shadow and their teachings, are there things that you really resonate with that they believe or things that you're just like, that's not my cup of tea, and maybe it's something y'all talk about often?
One thing I can say that's kind of prevalent right now is tithing. That's a big one for my dad and I. We debate about that because he just is a firm believer that tithes belong in the church. And I'm not saying that I have a problem with giving 10%. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't feel like it needs to go to a church all the time. I give in other ways. And he's just like, well, no, you got to tithe to the storehouse. And I understand, but I don't feel the storehouses are housing like they used to. So I'm like, I'm not supporting this.
Wait a minute. She said storehouses aren't housing like they used to.
They're not. And it's just what it is. Like church used to be a place of community, a safe place. It's just the judgment and all the stuff that goes on in the church that people don't talk about. Like it's the matching beautiful pictures of the family. It's not that the parents are really going through a quiet divorce. You know what I mean? Like you don't see that. So it's like you see all the perfect things and it's just like, and then there's a whole slew of people just like that kind of but supporting it. I'm like, I'm not paying into this, so it's like, I can find a way to give with my heart in other ways. And I do believe that God will bless me the same. I just believe it. If I'm not agreeing with what the church is doing, I don't feel that I should put my hard-earned 10% to support a cause that is not, that's like, like voting yes on whatever, like on the, like whatever for voting. Like if you don't believe in it, you're not going to vote for it. You're not going to support it. Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing. So, but my dad's like, no, go to the church. And I'm like, okay, a church that I feel is providing for the community in the way I agree. Y'all can have my 10%. So I'm like, my ties are fluid. They can go anywhere. They can go anywhere.
Yes.
So yeah, that's one thing that I just don't agree with. And hey, if on Judgment Day I have to pay for that, then I'll pay for it.
But I got that one wrong.
Listen, I like, okay, God, I thought you knew my heart. So it's just like, I don't know. So if that was wrong this whole time, or if that is wrong, then okay, I'll deal with that. But that's just something I'm not doing. Because like I say, I just don't think the church is what it used to be. The church used to give and people giving rides, like you can't do anything nowadays at the church. It's like everything's a bill. Everything's, you got to pay for it. You got to be a member. It's like it's not a country club. I don't like that. And so, anyway.
Yeah. I really resonate with that because, I think of the church as the church universal, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just want to be clear. We do vote with our money. Yeah. And if you are not delivering on the service, I can vote with my money wherever. Mm-hmm. I can contribute to God's work and spreading the gospel in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And not just here.
No, not just here. Mm-hmm. And in our society where you have virtual churches and things like that, there's a church down the street that I love to support. Mm-hmm. And, you competing for that money and you may not think about it that way. And it's not all about the money, but in reality, people support causes, like you said. Mm-hmm. And just like you wouldn't donate to a charity where you don't agree with their principles or what they're doing with the money, the same goes for a church. Yeah. There's other ways to support the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm. And so to be so presumptuous as to assume that someone has to contribute to you. And yes, they show up on Sunday, they use your AC, things like that. You put your time and money in. So I get where some people feel entitled they got bills to pay.
I get it.
Right. So let's talk about what's missing then and be willing and open to hear from your audience, because if you were selling a product and your audience wasn't buying it, I bet you'd be changing that product.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so that's why I'm like, if I'm not getting what I need, but and it's like I say, God knows my heart.
Yeah.
I was at a church one time that I don't tie that. And one time they were doing a raffle for like whatever child brought the most friends to church got a brand new pair of sneakers. And so I think there was a tie. And so they were like, we'll try to figure out, like, we'll flip a coin or something. So I found the youth pastor after the service and I was like, I'll pay for the other pair of sneakers. And I gave her the money. And I was just like, buy the other kids sneakers too. And she's like, oh my God, and I'm like, I don't have to tithe here, but I still want to give back. Like, I think that's beautiful. That little boy brought 10 friends to church, like 2 kids. Oh, it's 20 new kids, about to find Jesus, maybe, so. So it's things like that are for my heart, because it's the kids, that we have to really water those seeds, not even plant them, they're born with the seeds. You just got to water them.
Yeah.
So.
And that comes from an authentic place.
Yeah.
It didn't come from, I have to tithe, I should tithe. There's a standard 10%. It can come from a place of obligation.
Yeah. And no one knew that. Like, I didn't jump up and say, I'll pay for it. Like, I found her after and I was like, hey, I'll pay for the other shoe. I just gave her an envelope. I'm like, just buy the little boy shoes. You're like, oh my God, so it's just, that's how I am. I've given those ways, rather than, but we'll probably definitely for the rest of our lives fight about that tithing. So that's probably the only thing that, my dad's pretty easy though. That's probably the only thing that we're really like, this is a practice we just don't agree on. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Ruby?
We have all very the same backgrounds, and I love that we kind of still have that same thing. So don't agree with absolutely anything about the church, but the socialist aspect. So that's where I kind of gravitate my life towards, just like socialism. We will fight about absolutely everything.
So tell me more. When you say socialism, what do you mean? What's
giving back, whether that's tithing or whether that's, okay, well, I know my neighbor's 90. She lives next to me and she's about to move out. Let me go help her. Time. Just
you're tithing with your time.
Oh, so less about Stalin and more about the community, the giving back. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Nothing. We did not agree.
Yeah.
So what is that like growing up in a household or even now as an adult where you do have that difference in how you think and believe? What is that like in your family?
It's hard. It created a very big, just a lot of room between our relationship. So with my siblings, super awesome. We can still be cordial. We still hang out. We still have good talks. But like with my parents, it never, communication stopped. Like now everything became oh, well, why are you doing that? Oh, but God's going to call you back to the ministry one day. What are you going to do then? And I'm like, oh, I just came to tell you I got a cool pet snake. Yeah. It was really cool. It was an awesome snake. But did you know that the snake was not good? And it just kind of stopped all relationship that I could have. So now that I'm an adult and I realize, relationships are valuable and you get to hold this beautiful thing with people and it's organic and it's great. When I look at my parents, I'm like, you are lecturing me every day and I don't get to actually talk to you. I don't know you.
Yeah.
As an adult, I do not know my parents.
Yeah.
So,
that is so significant.
Yeah. I'm over here. Wow.
Yes. Like mind blown. It feels like you're realizing that even deeper right now as you're saying it.
Well, it always hits you in the face. Like, this is the person that birthed you. Yeah. So whenever you sit there and you contemplate it, you're like, oh my God, I have more of a relationship with the ice cream man that sells me my ice cream every day.
Yeah. Every day?
Look. This year has been tough.
You know what got me? I love that you were like, even the snake that I got as a pet became about Adam and Eve. Like, I've got other questions about that snake, Ruby. We could talk about it later. But it definitely has nothing to do with Adam and Eve.
That's so funny. Yeah, I heard a quote one time and it said something about like, if your mother was not your mother, would you be friends with her? Mm-hmm. I was like, so it just made me think like how I say, like sometimes the titles or the roles that people play or that they're in our life or in their life takes away from who they actually are. And it's like, just because you're my mom or just because you're my dad or just because of this, I expect you to be something. Ooh. Just because you're my pastor, just because. So that expectation is just so heavy. And when we have expectations, it's heavy on us, it's heavy on the person, because we project that expectation, so it's like, like even me saying like, oh, I'm terrible today. They're like, oh, you got to put that on me. Like, well, you shouldn't ask, so it's just like, you expected me to come back with this proper response, a response that would appease you.
Right.
And it didn't. So now it's heavy, so it's like, maybe it's like I'm going home, like expecting like, hey, you want to see my snake? You expect them to like think hard. It's like, oh, that's cool. So cool. Something. And it's like, oh, get that out of here.
I love that you said that though. When you said that now it's heavy, because what I was picturing when we were talking about those expectations, my pastor always likes to talk about the rocks in your backpack. And he talks about kind of the things you carry around. And it's funny because with the expectations are one of those rocks. And someone tries to hand that rock to you. Yes. And you hand it right back. Yeah. And now they're like, wait, it's heavy. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yes, because you tried to hand me your burden. You tried to hand me all that gunk in your head about what you think I should be, who you think I should be, how you think I should show up. And you expected me to just hold that rock and put it in my backpack and let it weigh me down all day. Yeah. No, boo, this is your rock. You can have that back.
It's not fair. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want all this.
Yes.
Like, and how dare you? Like, do you know I've just been sorting rocks all day?
I got my own rocks.
Yeah, like, no. Like, no, thank you. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And it's interesting hearing your experiences. I feel like my mom, I don't know if it has anything to do with the timing when she joined the ministry, but just as a person, she's very open. Mm-hmm. And as a minister. And so I've had her on the show a lot, which has been really fun just to have, we don't talk about this kind of stuff. We don't talk about faith together like ever.
Yeah.
And so
it's like a neutral space.
It is.
Yeah. That's nice.
And the fact that I didn't know how it was going to go, y'all, having my mom, a presiding elder, sit across from a yogi, the first conversation I was like, well, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
I listened to it. I thought it was so, it was beautiful because everyone, when you're in a space where everyone respects everyone's belief, Like, I might not agree, but I'll respect what you believe.
Right.
And that's, that's another thing, like having an expectation of you to like believe what I believe no, we can respectively agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Like, God bless you on your journey and God bless me on mine. Like, It is what it is, So it was just, like I say, like a neutral space, like a Zen space.
And it's all okay. Nobody put expectations on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because the phrase agree to disagree, I love it. And also I want to friendly amend it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we don't even have to disagree. I agree that that's your journey and I agree that it's on my journey.
Yeah.
And we are all in this space. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting. I got my first comment and I was really excited. Mm-hmm. And someone wrote and they were like, Jesus is the way and the light. And I was like, yes, 100. And I'm sure that's not what they expected, but I was like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge that there are others who may not. And that's okay. And I can still learn from them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like even, I listened to that conversation and how your mom was saying, how faith it's a belief, like you believe in something. Mm-hmm. And even atheists believe in something. Yep. They believe in something. They so strongly believe that
there's nothing up there. Yeah, that's what they believe.
So strongly. It's like, I didn't even want to say it. Like, it's like, they just so strongly believe that, So it's like, they believe what they believe. Yeah. Like, they have faith in that belief.
I had an atheist ask me, could you have an atheist like me on Faith and Fire? And I had to stop and think about it because a lot of my questions go around how does faith show up in these different topics? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I could, because what I would want to learn from you is, how do you deal with all these things without faith in your life? Yeah. How do you do this without God in your life? Because I need an answer for you. It's like, I got you.
Yeah. I don't really consider myself like an atheist, but I very much strongly ground my principles in humanists.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in an outside force, but I do believe in like my full potential, and I believe in your full potential, and I believe together we should be living our full potential, while still having that social credit of like, okay, well, I have to socially clean up my earth. Yeah. So you deal with things the same way that you would deal with like your own personal life. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I take ownership. I messed up. And I don't say, sorry, God, I messed up. I say, hey, Ruby, like, dude, you messed up. You need to fix this. So it all goes back onto me. And it's not so heavy to carry that, because once you start carrying that, you start realizing you're way more forgiving. Yeah. And life is a lot more fluid, and life is a lot more easy for you to just dance through it, because you start becoming human again. And you're like, oh my God, yes, I forgot about this.
And I can respect that.
I love that. Yeah.
I respect that so much because it's tangible. Because I know, as growing up as a Baptist little girl, communion every first Sunday, all the things, can't take communion unless you're baptized, all of those things, when something bad would happen in my life, I would be mad at God. Like, God, how dare you let this happen? Like, if you love me, if I'm your daughter, if I'm precious, then how could this happen to me? So I struggled so much. My faith was wavering at a point, and that was hard, because my brothers, who are, a lot of them are called to preach and everything, they are preachers and in the ministry and serve, and they would be like, Jamila, you're so bad. Why are you this way? You're a heathen, and I'm just like, but I'm not, I'm hurting, and I'm like, this is not, sometimes I just need a hug.
Yeah.
And you guys are like, go pray about it. I'm like, but I need someone to hold me.
I pray that you give me a hug?
Yeah. I just really need a hug right now. And it's just like, you're just telling me that's just not realistic. And I'm like, but that's what as a human person, that's what I need. So that's why I say, honoring myself and honoring my feelings. Sure, there's God within. So that's why I'm like, not in a blasphemous way, oh, I'm my own God, not like that. But that's innate. God gave me the power and the mind and the that's why choosing a faith or not, and that's why it's so liberating, because you have a choice. You choose. So yeah, just being able to choose for myself, and hey, yeah, Jamila, you could have done that differently. You could have done that differently. One of my favorite songs is called "And We Overcome," and it says, everything that you need to believe is already in you. And then she says all these things, all these beautiful things. And then finally, like the song goes, and we overcome by faith. And the whole song's about faith. And so, yeah, it's just innate, I think. So no matter whatever you believe or not now, like I totally respect that, because it's just a root, and you choose to water it in whatever way. And sometimes people don't realize like that distance that we create as PKs or religious people stems from being hurt or not being watered properly, so and people like frown upon that. Like, well, that doesn't serve me. So like people frown at me for saging, like, oh, that's demonic. Okay. It's a plant and it's dried and I lit it.
And it
like,
smells pretty.
Yeah. So it's just like,
you said it's a plant and it's dried and I lit it. That could go in a whole different direction.
It totally could.
I'm going to take a little sip.
I love it. Yes. So all of it. Herbal essence. So yeah,
I just thought of the shampoo and something completely different all at the same time. Like,
yeah, herbs are good.
April 20th, we will be celebrating herbal essence.
Listen, that's a good day for business. So the dispensaries love balloons. So I'll just say
yes, because you own a balloon company.
Yes,
really,
I do.
More than that, you do events, you do all of that. But you have a whole human life outside of, being a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
It's like such a
You're
small
not just
fraction.
a preacher's kid?
Believe it or not, believe you me, I have an actual life outside of church. Yeah. So, but yeah. No, I just wanted to honor and say that I love your belief, Ruby.
Thank you. I have a random question. Do you feel like you taking an alternate path to like just kind of like your brothers and sisters help you set up your personal business life?
In a way, yes, but I had to use so much of like my faith to start a business. Yeah. It just wasn't the way that they expected. Like maybe they wanted me to be the recreations pastor and then, learn the business on the church side. Like, I don't know. Like, but I just knew I needed something that served me where I was in my life. And I prayed. Like I fasted and I prayed so much. And I always say, to fast, you have to have faith. You have to have faith that you'll make it through the day not eating. You have to fast, and then that's discipline. Faith is discipline. Faith is a choice. Faith is consistency. So when you're fasting and then you have the faith to make it through that fast, that dedication, then comes favor. And that's from God. That discipline, God rewards you from that. And then what you do with his favor is up to you. And then that's when the fruit comes. And I always say that's my favorite 4, and I learned that through fasting, starting my business. And, no, maybe I didn't do it the way I should have. Okay. But I did it the way that served me and helped me be a better mom, so. And it didn't, it took a long time, even for my dad to say like, hey, I'm proud of you, because it wasn't the way. Because he's like, you're doing all these events and you're not going to church. And I'm like, well, I work on Sunday, Dad. Yeah. Like that's a moneymaker for me. Like I gotta be out on Sunday. I'm sorry. Like Saturday and Sunday, those are my days. And, so there are obviously like a lot of things that we don't agree with, but I pride myself in being who God created me to be consistently, because people there are so many balloon people, there's so many event planners, but people call me because of me. Yeah. And it's not, even when I'm having an off day, they'll call me back because I'm like, hey, I was having a rough day and the next one's on me, so, and that's because of me. So I'm like, Dad, it's something that's in me that they want. It's not like, oh yeah, my balloons, it's just me. And I give him credit for that too, because my name, like Jamila, my name is Jamila Imani, beautiful faith. Like, and my brother, when I'm going through a rough day, he always tells me like, be your name, be beautiful faith, be faith, and I'm like, oh, I needed that. Like, I need that reminder. So, and my dad tells me every time I call your name, like, you're my beautiful faith. Like, you have to be faith. So of course, all that has helped me, so it's just, our path is our path. So
I love that you shared that. We actually have an episode where we dive into faith in business. Mm-hmm. And it's 100% that, like the faith that it takes to start a business. And I don't think people really appreciate that faith shows up 100%, whatever your faith is.
Yeah.
You need every ounce of that to jump into the entrepreneurial world.
Oh, for sure. Cause it's rough. Like it's rough, you know,
Yes.
you've been talking about me, you have businesses on businesses. So, So it is. So good question, Ruby.
Yeah. No, it taught me so much. Faith has, or at least being born in the church has taught me so much about, in general, just going against the grain. So it's propelled me for everything, whether that's starting a new venture or whether that's like just deciding I'm going to believe this. It's always been going against the grain. And I think that directly correlates to Christianity.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I've always appreciated and loved that.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're seeding another episode, which might be around, how you found your own authentic faith with that looming presence. And so I'm not going to dig into it here, but I definitely feel another episode in my soul. So here's where I want to leave folks. What do we want people to know about PKs? And I'll start with myself, is just, we are perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay. At the end of the day, a PK is a human being, and we love and we hurt and we have all of the feels that anyone else does. And to expect us to show up any differently than with our full authentic selves is going to let both of us down, the person who's expecting it and ourselves. Yeah. And we can't do anything other than show up authentically and let go of those things that don't serve us and don't serve our purpose. And in allowing us space to do that, we can fully embrace our purpose. So that's really what I wish people would know about PKs, is just let go of those expectations and give us space to achieve our purpose.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, for sure. One of my uncles, who's a pastor, he told me something last night. He calls me to check on me, but I just thought it was so timely that he called me yesterday and we would just talk, and he said something to me, and he said, faith is that which can survive a mood.
Ooh.
And I loved it. Shout out to my Uncle Manuel. But he definitely, and I was like, wait, say it again. And he's like, faith is that which can survive a mood. So your belief will be preceded by whatever mood, whatever you're feeling. And, I talked so much about my feeling, how I feel. I had to honor my feelings, and everything's like self-absorbed in a feeling, but my belief sustains all that.
Yes.
Because I have a belief that I'm going to feel better. I have a belief that I'm going to be successful, that I'm going to be a good mom. I believe that no matter I feel like, oh, I should have been better to my son today, or I should have been more patient. But I always have that mustard seed of faith, that belief that will survive that mood or whatever I'm feeling. So I just love that he said that. So your faith is that which can survive a mood. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't think I could have worded it any better. I think just closing notes for any PK out there. One, remember that you are human. And for everyone out there looking at us as PKs, we are human. Same way you fell when you were growing from adolescence to adults. It's the same way I'm going to fall. It's the same way I'm going to learn how to climb. So definitely just we're humans.
We're humans. Give us space and give us
no
patience.
Different than the engineer's child.
Also, don't treat me like you can't tell me the tea. I want to hear all the tea too.
You want to hear the tea?
Yeah, I've literally been uninvited from things she can't come because she's going to tell her dad that I drink. I'm like,
I won't.
Yeah. I don't care. So.
It's funny. I had that mom where everyone told her the tea. Like she would know before me.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden I find out my friend was pregnant and I'm like, you knew? And all of that jazz. So
that's so funny.
Yeah. Okay, ladies. Well, I appreciate you coming and chatting with me today.
Yes,
this won't be the last PK Council meeting, but I appreciate it. I don't know that I've gotten a chance to really talk to either of you about this experience.
No.
Yeah. So
thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us today. And if you like this kind of conversation, be sure to go ahead, follow, subscribe, so we can bring you more hard-hitting content on topics of faith and real talk about things that impact our everyday. Goodbye.